In our litigation work, we file briefs, often at the Supreme Court, to make a particular point. And while we want to speak as Baptists and from the Baptist Joint Committee's perspective, we sometimes join forces with coalition partners to show the court that our perspective is one that is shared across a broad religious and legal perspective. We're often looking to file an amicus brief, and whether we do that alone or in a coalition depends on how we can be most effective.
An amicus is the Latin word for friend, of course. So they're also called friend of the court briefs. And so what happens is, friend of the court, you're not actually one of the two main parties in the dispute, but you are interested, especially at the Supreme Court level, that one of the sides win or the other. And so the court in a religious freedom case gets lots of friend of the court briefs on both sides of the issue usually.
We often team up with BJC in our amicus briefs, and they're often very strategic. Having more voices connected to that brief, I think, amplifies the message. It shows that it's not just one group that thinks it, but it's many groups.
When the court sees a broad coalition of religious groups across the spectrum, when you have Muslims and Jews and Christians and atheists coming together on a brief, it can show the court that what you're arguing for is not a narrow perspective, but something that is really good for religious liberty for all.
One case that comes to mind that many people may remember is the EEOC versus Abercrombie & Fitch, a case that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Baptist Joint Committee, the Adventist Church, and 13 other faith and advocacy groups came together to speak on behalf of the rights of a young Muslim girl who was denied a job because she wanted to wear a head covering or a hijab. And so in that situation, we're not advocating for particular religious beliefs. We're advocating for the opportunity to not be restricted in your faith in the workplace and representing the rights of all people. So what was very interesting in this particular case was that the 13 groups span the entire spectrum. We had the ACLU, we had the Southern Baptists, and groups that don't often end up on the same side, but in this case, on the principle of religious freedom, we came together. That actually played an important role in the message that we sent to the court.
A recent example was the Hosanna-Tabor case. The government was interfering with a church's determination of who should be its minister in the sense of teaching in its religious school. And on that case, BJC joined our brief. They gave us a lot of input and a lot of helpful comments. And then we filed on behalf of 6 groups in support of the church's right to choose who its ministers would be. And that's what the court held, 9-0.
When we work in coalition, we also benefit by getting to know other people and understanding their perspectives. We get to share why the Baptist Joint Committee does the work we do, where we're coming from historically and today to pursue religious liberty for all. And we become stronger because we understand the perspective of others.